We have an app called Cascable Pro Webcam, which was our COVID panic pivot that actually saved the company.
Whoa. Oh, well, we have to dive into that.
Thankfully, an accidental, excellent business decision many years ago. I pulled out the camera connection logic and stuff into its own framework. That is another revenue stream for the company. Like, we licensed that out. We went, we could use the SDK to make a virtual webcam on the Mac. So you can connect your camera and then it's a webcam. So from like idea to money was 3 weeks, and I'm very proud of that. That filled in the revenue hole.
Welcome to Launched. I'm Charlie Chapman, and today I'm excited to bring you the developer behind the excellent photography app, Cascable, Daniel Kennett. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We got to hang out a little bit a couple weeks ago in Chicago, right, for Deep Dish Swift, and you were a speaker there. And for a while there, you were top tier, the funniest by a significant margin talk. Also guest of the show a long time ago, Chad Etzel. He came in towards the last minute, and he's competing with you. Those were both like some of the funniest talks I think I've ever seen.
That was my favorite talk at that conference. It was so good.
Highly recommend people watch that. So yeah, I'm super excited to have you on. As soon as I saw that, and honestly, as soon as I saw or listened to the podcast that you did leading up to that conference that they do, I was like, all right, it's time. You've been on my list for a very long time, and we need to make this happen. And so I'm glad you're finally here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Yeah.
So before we get into your backstory and how you ended up making Cascable, I want you to explain what Cascable is. Give the quick elevator pitch so that we know kind of what we're leading up to here.
We have a few apps, but the main app, Cascable Studio, is for photographers with cameras that aren't iPhones. So like we support Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, like a few others. And it connects to your camera and you can remote control it, transfer files across. But we also have more advanced features like automation and like all the way up to like a shortcuts like visual scripting language for photographers to like automate doing this and that. So it's like a more professional, like advanced, like amateur photographers use it as well, especially for like astrophotography and stuff like that. But it's a tool in that realm for like advanced amateurs and professional photographers to do more with their camera than they can with what it comes with.
Perfect. And all right, let's get into, how you ended up building these apps. And so the questions I always ask to kind of kick off this conversation is, where are you from? Do you have a formal education related to what you do? And then, what was your career like that kind of led you into the sort of indie app world?
I grew up in England. I live in Sweden. So now I'm from Sweden, but I'm from England, I guess. I have had formal computing education in the form of a computer science degree. I shipped my first indie app and started earning money from it before that degree started.
Man, you really pitched this as a really complicated story, and then you just bing, bang, bong answered them very cleanly.
Well, yeah, that's true, yeah. But like everything's kind of all over the place and stuff.
So you have a computer science degree, but you started doing the indie thing before that. So yeah, what's the story there? Why did you start doing that? All
right, the whole thing started, do you as an American know what a car boot sale is?
I know what a car boot is because I've seen Harry Potter. So I know that is what we call a trunk of the car, right? Yeah. The part that you can open in the back.
Maybe a flea market is close. Like a bunch of people put all of their crap they want to get rid of, and everybody drives to a field somewhere, and it's all in the boots of their cars. They open the car boot, people come, they wander around, and they buy secondhand stuff.
Oh wow, okay. So we have garage sales.
Yeah, it's like that, but everybody
like a
goes...
garage sale that everybody comes together into one place.
Yeah,
this feels like something that should be an American thing, given our, obsession with cars and big open fields.
You do like your cars, yeah. Anyway, so when I was a kid, we bought a ZX Spectrum computer from there. It was like the era where it had a tape drive, like Atari kind of Commodore kind of thing. It was way obsolete by the time we got it, but you could still buy games on tape from like secondhand stores at that time, and you could buy magazines, and it was the kind of era where there'd be a program in the magazine and you type, it was basic, and that kind of got me into programming, cool. And then my family, my dad was a journalist, and that industry was Mac back then, so like they had a Mac in the office. When that Mac became obsolete, it came to my bedroom. So that was a Mac LC2. So like System 7 era, kind of 90s. And I really wanted to learn how to program it. And I did several failed attempts to do that. Like I tried Java. I from a local bookstore bought a Java book.
The first sweet solution, right?
Yeah, didn't really get on with it. I tried, because back then it was all C and C++, right? So I tried that, didn't really get on with it. After a few failed attempts, I found a thing called RealBasic, which is like a cross-platform Visual Basic kind of language. So it's quite simple. And I did manage to like get on with it and actually learn programming with it. And I started sort of making apps and shipping them.
Yeah, what does shipping apps mean in this era?
Yeah, so that would be uploading it to a website in a SIT file, Stuffit Expander, and it'd list it on versiontracker.com, which is just a list of things that were released, basically.
Okay, interesting. So it's like sort of shareware minus the...
Yeah, it's exactly shareware. Yeah. And back then, like, people would pay the payment provider called Kaji, Kaji, not the search engine. And then I remember my first check from them in dollars came when I was 15. So that's kind of that era.
In dollars. So people were able to pay you cross country even then. Was that complicated?
Well, it probably should have been. They paid the payment provider, and then they would just send me a check for everything. But it was an American company, so literally I'd just get in the mail, like, a month after they sent it, a check.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Whatever dollars.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And I remember 15 because we went to the bank, and the bank would not let me open a business account because I wasn't 16 yet. And I kind of did this mostly on my own, like, volition, because where it might have been the time, it might have been the location, it might have been both, but schools where I grew up and when I grew up didn't really have computing courses. Like there was a computer on a cart that would get wheeled in once a week and we'd go on the computer, And even when I got to secondary school, which is ages 11 to 16, then even there, it was a huge school and there was a computer room. And like once a week, we'd all file into the computer room and learn how to use Word and mail merging and all that kind of stuff. So like that degree was the first actual programming education I got.
And what kind of app were you making?
It was a word processor. It was a very simple, like kind of like text edit, but a bit more fancy. Like if I'm honest, it was just like dragging controls onto a screen and like, you type text here and you can change the font and stuff. That kind of earned pocket money. I saved up and bought my iPod with that. Biked over to the local Apple reseller, as before Apple stores, I think, especially in the UK. Bought my iPod with my app money. Yeah, and then the iPod actually unlocked my first indie business.
Oh, really? Okay.
At the kind of tail end of my pre-university education, I had an iBook, and I had music on my iPod, and I wanted to share it with my friends, but iTunes wouldn't let you copy music from the iPod back to the computer. I guess it was a copyright thing.
So wait, because you had to buy the music on your computer and share it to your iPad. What's the story for why you're then sharing from the iPad to a computer? It's because it's your friend's computer?
This is the height of the Napster era, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, I got this cool new album. You should listen to it. I've got it on my iPod. I'll give you a copy.
And they have their computer with them?
Yeah, if I go around to their house, they've got a computer there.
That makes sense.
Or whatever. So I started figuring out how the iPod worked and reverse engineering it a bit and figuring out how to get the music back off of it.
This is feeling like origin stories already for Cascable, but...
Oh, 100%, yeah. So I did that in the back of physics. So my physics grades just went...
when you said on the back of physics, I thought you meant you were using physics. I'm like, whoa.
No. Literally sitting in the back of the classroom, tapping away on my computer rather than paying attention to my physics lesson. And physics was the science I was good at as well. It was really stupid. I ended up shipping it, again, similar thing, uploaded to a website, very, very basic license key system. Thankfully, even though my grades at school tanked, I think because I did computer sciencey stuff and I put the fact I was making apps and shipping them on my application to uni, they still let me in for my computer science degree, even though I missed the grades required by quite a margin.
And you said real business. So was this one making actual, not just pocket money, but a real amount of money?
Not then, but it did. I was doing uni, learning how to program properly, with proper programming. And then I was still doing this app, this iPod app in the background, while doing that. And it was just very slowly ticking upwards. And that course was supposed to have a work placement in the third year. I was like, I should do my app in that instead. And the university wouldn't let me work for myself for my work placement.
Because they want what they're really wanting is like, learn how to work with people, learn how to write a BRD or Agile or whatever was popular at the time.
Exactly. And the rule that they dinged me on was that you can't have the report given back to the university on your progress be written by a member of your family.
Oh, yeah.
And I am a member of my own family. Yeah, it's hard to argue my way out of that one. But what they did instead let me do is change my degree to a computer science degree without a work placement and then just take a gap year. So I did that. And in that year, I worked on it full time, because I was still in the umbrella of education and living in my parents' house. So it was cheap, all that kind of stuff. And by the end of that year, it was like properly, a business.
So I'm curious. You said it was ticking up and up. And then by giving it full time, it grew more. Why do you think it was starting to, it's not just features, like, were you marketing it or was it being shared around?
What happened was I was kind of following the rise of the iPod, if you like.
Oh, that's interesting. You're sort of doing the same thing that a lot of people do with the iPhone, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I never really did any proper marketing for it, but by that time there were a ton of competitors. A lot of them were free. Mine wasn't. But I tried to do a really good job of making it a very friendly app. So like it would auto detect the color of your iPod and the icon in the app was the same color as your iPod. Little details like that.
Which the Mac community, especially in that time,
exactly.
highly appreciated.
And it was also cross-platform. It was RealBasic, and that would compile from Windows for me. So I shipped it on Mac and Windows. And what really, really gave it its break, I think, was there was a popular website at the time called iPod Lounge that became iLounge when the phone came out. And that did a tutorial on how to copy music from your iPod to your Mac. The business kind of sales pitch was that it's for backups. If your Mac fails, your hard drive fails, you have a backup of all of your music and the playlists and the smart plays, everything. Your iPod is basically a mirror of it. So the app would recover all that, the playlists, the smart playlists, the lot. So it just mirror it back, basically.
Was that how you marketed it as well?
Yeah. It was and it was genuinely used for that. Like, but by the end, like we were getting people referred to us by Apple support, like saying, "Hey, Apple said like I need you to get my stuff back." I was like, "Yeah, sure." But this iPod Lounge website did a tutorial on how to do that, and they used my app, Music Rescue, it was called, to do that. And that was just so if somebody they had really high SEO, they were like a proper SEO, place. If you Alta Vista'd how to, recover music from my iPod, they would get that article, which would get my app.
And that is an argument for why spending a bunch of time on features and polish and everything matters. Because like the reason they chose that, I'm imagining, is because it was the easiest one to do an article on, because it's like, it's more straightforward. They're going to get way less people asking them questions than if they had picked some free, like really janky thing. So yeah, that's a case where like doing the feature work, even if it doesn't immediately lead to marketing, actually can have that impact, down the road.
Exactly. Yeah. I always find it funny when people these days are like, well, you have to use X programming language or X framework to build an app. It's like, come on, I bought a house with RealBasic. Like, users don't care. If it's a good app and it fits well in the platform, it's polished, then, the underlying technology isn't really super important. Obviously the technology helps you do that.
And depending on this specific audience, maybe they care, but very likely that's not the case.
Your average end user doesn't care between UIKit and SwiftUI or whatever, So yeah, that breezed past the next few years. Finished uni, was earning enough money to pay a mortgage, all that, staff, the lot. Next 2-3 years, completely screwed it up. Ended up with I avoided bankruptcy like this, by the skin of my teeth. Like
How's
really
that?
by the skin of my teeth. How did I screw it up, or how did I avoid bankruptcy?
How did you screw it up?
What happened is two real things. Is a kid basically with no financial education in maybe 2 years went from working in a hardware store part-time to pay for food at uni to earning a senior developer salary.
This is like the football player.
Yeah. No idea
story, right?
Saving, nah. I just buy stuff, credit card. Oh, credit card's maxed out. Pay it all off, whole thing, right? And do that. So then separately, we also I hired a friend. We had an idea for a new thing, another app. which we were both excited about, and we started building that. And we kind of spread everything too thin. The revenue from Music Rescue just started to drop a bit, not a lot. Like it just, the iPod, the phone was out by this time. The industry had changed, how music was consumed was changing, like Spotify is coming out a lot, so our revenue started to kind of do that a bit. But because I was basically just spending without thought, on kind of a delay as well because of credit cards and stuff, by the time I realized, it was kind of too late. So between this, just being crap with money, basically, and not saving and not doing sensible, smart things.
Not really anticipating the fact that this wasn't just the way it was going to be forever.
Exactly. Yeah. So, because I had no idea. Yeah, and then everything just kind of came crashing down, basically.
Did that just like upend your sort of mental model for your self-worth? Like, were you very tied up in this as that was your thing? Or was it like, you did this other stuff and you had this cool little side hobby that happened to be making money?
No, that was my thing. That was like, it was the worst time in my life. Like, it really was. Like,
I imagine not just the money, but also that
identity exactly thing. The whole thing. I struggled with this since then, but my identity was always developer, programmer, rather than business person. So like, failing that way didn't really shape my confidence as a developer.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
It just really sucked. So we, lost a car. Just, somebody came and took the car one day, fighting to keep the house. And eventually sold it to avoid it being taken, basically. Lost friends, everything. Like my entire life was like kind of destroyed. So what we did in a very sensible move was I know we should move to Sweden.
That's the go-to move, right?
Famously a cheap place to live.
Right.
Because the thing is that the company the app was still selling, like it was earning some money. So in theory, there was a universe where I could have like kind of sorted it all out and carried on. And the way I work is it's very hard for me to, I deal better with troubleshooting, like looking in from the outside. So if I'm inside the problem, especially literally my house is, I'm in the house and they're threatening to take it away.
Was this a little bit of like sort of running away from your problems?
I think so. Like at the time I was like, no, we planned this for quite a while. Yeah. We had like, it's all sensible, blah, blah. But I was basically fleeing the country. Like, it was within the EU at the time. So obviously I wasn't fleeing crap really. Cause
more like mentally, right? You needed a reset.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of. Just outside of the physical space I was in. Yeah. And I tried and eventually I just ended up folding the company. Like I just went, this isn't going to come back. I don't think so. Folded it. Still had a ton of personal debt. Ended up working at Spotify.
That's what I was going to ask. Why Sweden? And Spotify feels like, was it because of Spotify or was it like you just liked Sweden?
The actual story is Obama got elected.
Oh, okay. You don't need to explain anymore. That's why you end up in Sweden.
Yeah, obviously. There's this whole thing in the media, I think in the American media, how Obama was going to turn America into like a socialist hellhole. And the Daily Show did a bit on like, America's going to turn out like horrible, crappy Sweden. And they did like a documentary on how terrible Sweden was. And the bit was, it's actually a really nice place.
So they like accidentally did an ad campaign for like move
pretty
to Sweden.
Much, yeah. And I was like, we should move to Sweden, yeah. And it was a joke. And then just like over a year, it just kind of like snowballed into like, because my wife and I were fairly young at the time. And we were like, okay, well, if we're going to experience living in a foreign country, it's either now or when we're retired. So it's like, we'll move to Sweden for a year. We can rent, figure out this whole cash flow situation with my previous company, So we moved, without Spotify at all. And I've been there we've been there 6 months or so, maybe a bit less. It's not important. And when we made the decision to fold the company, it's like, okay, well, I did still have all this debt that I needed to deal with. So I was like, okay, well, I need to get a job then. And a friend of mine on Twitter, when it was good, worked at Spotify. And we were Twitter friends, and he was like, you should come work for Spotify. And then I went for a chat one day, and it was an interview. I didn't realize it was an interview.
That's the best way to go into an interview.
Yeah, I think so. And then I ended up getting the job at Spotify. So
that's cool. That's a fun time to be at Spotify too, right?
It was, yeah. So I joined before they were launched in the US.
Wow.
So it was very small.
Okay.
We went to WWDC and nobody had any clue who we were. Like, never heard of it.
I was, a Groove Shark user who was just like constantly poring over screenshots of Spotify waiting for it to come to the US. Maybe I even got the Mac app before, because I think you could download the app, you just couldn't.
Oh yeah, you could download the app.
Maybe I created an account with a VPN. I'm trying to remember. I remember being very excited about Spotify specifically.
Yeah. It was really cool, and it was really early. The company was really small.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, the time I was there was like a really huge growth period. Like I was employee number 100 and something, and it was many thousand by the time I left 4 years later. So that was a bonkers time. It was fun. I learned a bunch of stuff that you don't learn being an indie developer, like how to work with people.
And were you doing indie stuff at all during this time, or were you like, I'm a company man
I was just like, right, no, that's done. Just need to concentrate on like sorting out all the debt, paying that off, like getting that all sorted out. And it was a really fun job. So I didn't really want to. Like the itch wasn't there, as it were. Like I was having a great time doing what I was doing at Spotify. Like I was, sorting everything out. It was good. And then once everything was sorted out, all the previous bad stuff was done, everything, settled. I bought a camera, and it was the first Canon camera that had Wi-Fi. And I was like, ooh, Wi-Fi. And the app was terrible, like really terrible. And I was like, I could make a better app than this. I should reverse engineer this camera. And then 12 years later, here I am talking to you.
Bang, bang, boom. All right, roll the credits.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So when you say app, you mean the desktop app for letting you, or is this a phone app?
No, it was a phone app.
This is a phone app. Right.
Yeah,
That's the point of the Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi was slow. It wasn't terrible because all it did was take the USB kind of interface and just pipe it over TCP basically. So you had access to everything, even though Canon's app didn't give you everything.
Oh, so you weren't using any like APIs, fancy APIs or anything. You could just connect to it because it was just the, I guess, USB protocol over Wi-Fi. Is that a thing? I don't know much about that.
Yeah, there's like a standard protocol for cameras called PTP, which is Picture Transfer Protocol, and then there is a standard for funneling that over IP, which is
and you
PTP
had
IP.
Experience with this kind of thing because of all
Nope.
this time you spent. Well, but you were
yes. Reverse engineering, yes. So I
not just reverse engineering,
basically.
but like piping files over USB protocols.
Yeah, exactly. Like the iPod was mostly disk based, so that was okay. But there was some funny stuff that, like, to figure out the color, the iPod had a P list embedded. Like, you heard of SCSI?
Yes, I know the word SCSI. It's a cable, right, or like a protocol.
Yeah, like a protocol. So it turns out a USB is kind of sort of SCSI over a different cable. So you could issue some SCSI commands to the iPod to get a P list out of it. And
that's the most like Apple-y thing,
right?
I imagine none of this existed with Canon.
No. Yeah, so like I did it, kind of learned reverse engineering kind of through that, really.
And so you built this for yourself then? Or was it immediately like, oh, I'm going to make an app and kind of sell it somewhere?
No, we were still kind of reeling from what had happened before.
You're like, never again.
Yeah, so this is just a side project. Like it scratched the itch of doing like a reverse engineering stupid. I love doing stupid stuff with computers. It's the best. It was just kind of like a fun side project to learn how this works and stuff. And then just over time, like as Spotify grew, it became a massive corporation, like any massive corporation. I was never that good at the corporate like career game. Like filling out the boxes to check to do the thing. I don't know. So like the company
promotion projects and
the company kind of grew around me, if you like. So like I was just kind of in the middle with way more people above and way more people below, just picking out Jira tickets and fixing the Jira ticket. It got like I did some amazing things at Spotify, but like by the end I was just kind of like bored of it. Not bored of the work I was doing, but just, being in a big corporation and not kind of sucking at the promotion game and just watching people join, way after me and get promoted ahead of me, that kind of thing.
And so the side project is during this period of like, you're starting to get bored. You're just kind of, it's a fun tinkering thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it got to a point, I was like, this could be enough. I could sell this. We could do it. My wife and I talked when all this was happening with my previous company. She was my girlfriend. Like we weren't even engaged at the time. And she saw it. She lived
damage.
it. Yeah, like we hadn't been together that long, like as well. But she stayed, and which is kind of crazy. but she saw it. So she had also kind of lived it, and she'd seen the worst of it. And she very understandably was also not super enthusiastic about, like, let's do it again. Perfect. So, but she supported me, and we set some like sensible goals. Like, so I had some savings by then, and in Sweden, the law is once a company is a big enough size, they're obliged to give an employee 6 months off unpaid and guarantee their job is still there at the end. Just for any kind of sabbatical. So I took that, and the idea was, okay, at the 6 months, if the app isn't selling, you cut and go back.
And you hadn't released it already by this point?
No, it was getting there. So I spent a month or so after I, started my sabbatical from Spotify, working on it full time, finishing it up, polishing it, making it an app rather than just a side project. So then it shipped a month or so into that sabbatical. And then the most annoying thing happened was it didn't make it was nowhere near, replacing my salary, but like the line, it was very consistently sort of growing.
You released it, just for context, it was on the Mac App Store, or was this
iOS?
Just through your
it was
website?
iOS.
Oh, right.
It was
thinking of the Mac
iOS App Store. Yeah.
So it was on the iOS App Store. Okay. And it was a paid up front or subscription? Like, what was the business model?
It was going to be a paid up front iPad only app, which is stupid. Like, nobody would have bought it.
I mean, you say that, but there's some major successes that are paid up.
There
front.
are, yeah.
But
like,
those are more
like
broad appeal than
like just some random
camera.
guy making an app that worked with like 3 cameras. Like, no
yeah.
way. A friend of mine did convince me to make it work on the iPhone as well, so thank you to him. But it was still paid up front with 1.0, which was stupid. Like, nobody bought it because you wouldn't, right? So that was part of it, and quite quickly it went like, free with in-app purchase to unlock anything interesting,
but like a one-time purchase kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So then my wife and I sat down and we had discussions, and then we kind of set rolling goals to make sure it was still going the right way, and to basically avoid what happened last time, which was being caught by surprise by anything. So we were paying close attention to how it was doing, making sure that, everything was going in the right direction. Picked up contracting part-time to fill in the gap, yeah.
This is relevant, I think, for the future part of the story, but like, your wife is a product manager, or...
Yeah, so at that time, my wife also worked at Spotify, and she was in the business development team for Spotify.
Which part of these conversations you can already feel, even though she's not, an employee of the company.
Yeah.
She's bringing a little bit of business rigor that maybe you didn't have the first time.
Yes. Yep. So we did that, and then slowly the app developed over a number of years, and did part-time contracting to fill in the gap of salary.
Did it continue that same kind of steady growth the whole time?
Mostly, yes. It gets frustratingly flat at times. Like, we've never had a serious like backslide in income, but we have had periods where it's just like, no matter what we do, it's just like a flat line, which is great in its, you can rely on it. But if you need it to be more to hit a goal of quitting contracting or whatever, it's very frustrating, because you're doing new features, marketing, all this stuff is just like flat line. Like,
through all of this time, it was like a one-time in-app purchase.
Yeah. We experiment with a few things, because I always, and it's kind of gone away now, I feel, but there's this race to the bottom for a while where apps are expected to be cheap, like super cheap. And I was like, no. If you can afford $4,000 for a camera, you can pay more than $2 for my app, right? So it was always not super cheap, but like for a while we did feature packs where, like, if you only wanted the remote control automation stuff, you could just buy that part of the app for $10 or whatever, or this and that, and then you could buy the whole lot for $30, I think, at the time. Eventually I got rid of that because it doesn't scale.
And kind of the point of the app is that it's a lot simpler to use than these other tools,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we didn't really get any backlash at all for that. Nobody cared, because most people bought the full feature pack anyway. So
what do you think the main driver for that continued growth was then? Because like, you were late enough that it wasn't like you were just riding the iOS or the iPhone growth, right? Because for a long time apps were growing just because of that, kind of like you were with the iPad initially. And then you're paid up front, so it's only new users who are coming in. And it doesn't, from what we've talked about in the past and what you're saying here, it doesn't sound like you were doing these big marketing campaigns or paid acquisition or whatever. So what do you think was causing it to go up? Because I would expect it to be relatively flat.
Here's a fact for you that I learned recently. B&H, which is a photo store in New York, I believe they only have the one store. The photography market is huge. It's absolutely ginormous. So I think we're just reaching more people. I think a lot of it, especially with how slow it went, was word of mouth. We'd always we post on social media and we'd try and, post on social media like Reddit, things like that. We try, every time we do a big update, we try and get in photography publications, websites and stuff. We'd get covered sometimes. So I think just very slowly we just got to more people.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
It's very interesting to me because a highlight of my career is there's a smaller camera manufacturer here in Scandinavia that makes very, very large cameras, like big, huge, chunky things. And they didn't have a mobile app.
These are like large format kind of cameras?
Medium format. It's called medium format, even though it's absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
And they came to us and said, hey, can your app be our app? We're like, yeah, cool. So worked out an agreement, and they sent us hardware and they paid for the development costs.
Was this like a white label thing, or is it literally they're going to...
No. So basically, if you download our app from the App Store, connect one of their cameras, you get the app just like, ta-da, it's free now.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that we talked about white labeling, but I was like, I mean, we can. It would be simpler and cheaper if we just did it this way instead, and they kind of like that as well.
Well, and it helps with probably ASO or whatever. There's more users using the app regularly and probably giving better reviews because it's free. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then... So we launched an update with that in and some other features for everyone else. And we got like a drink. So just everything lifted with that, even though for those folks, it was free. So the income wasn't coming from this new camera manufacturer. So,
it's not just users. Your income did go up.
Yeah, our income went up. And I think people good at marketing probably know this. There's an actual word for it, but I think it added legitimacy to our name. Almost. Because, if you search for our app and there's this camera manufacturer has announced using, Cascable Studio as their app, as their first party kind of app, it kind of adds legitimacy to the name. And I think that helped.
I imagine also just ASO, if there's suddenly way more people using it and it's ranking higher, and the App Store is seeing those usage analytics going up, I think all of that stuff goes into how highly you are ranked, for certain words.
I think so.
And that probably benefits everything else, in terms of acquisition through the store.
Yeah, I think so. And then from that bump, we were able, I haven't done, the company or I have not had to do any kind of consulting for other people since then. So since then, the app and its products support the salary and things like that. And that was 2020. So that would have been 5 or 6 years after the app launched, it actually earned me a salary on its own. So it took, a long time.
Now, we haven't really talked a lot about the app itself. So, initially you built it as a way to do Wi-Fi, pulling pictures off of your Canon camera. But obviously it's a lot more than that. So what did it kind of grow up to be when you were in that period of let's make this for everybody?
So there are two avenues for growth of this. It's adding more cameras and then adding more features. And for a while, we just kind of threw features at the wall. That's not, I can't attribute any single feature to it, growing up. I joke that the app has been done for about 4 years now. Because it does, it's a fully featured solid app.
And what are the features? Because it's not just, pulling pictures off of your camera now, right?
The app is split into kind of almost modules. So there's a remote control module. So you can connect to the camera, see what it sees, change the camera settings, take pictures, record video, and automate taking pictures and recording video, basically. And the automations are fairly advanced in that they, take a picture, record a video, whatever, change settings, do the same. And we've seen people, there's a really nice spike in the analytics every time something happens in space. So if there's an eclipse or a meteor shower or something like that, we just see whing, or all our automations just go through the roof on the analytics.
Oh, that's kind of funny because I imagine that is, not only is it a big spike in people taking more advanced kind of photos, but it's also like specifically the group of people that don't have custom hardware for it, who just want to do it for this one event or whatever. They're going to be like, what's the best way to do a time lapse? I have a tripod, but like, I'm not going to, or a focus puller, or I don't know, whatever random thing you need for different types of events. Do you think about those at this point as, oh, this event's coming up, let's do a push leading up to it?
We are, all right, a year ago, my wife joined the company, and that's one of the things she's working on. Yeah, we've been talking about it for years because it makes total sense, but I just never did it.
I mean, it is a job. It's almost like you have to build out a calendar of like, here's all the events we think could happen, and then work backwards in terms of how do you promote leading up to it. That's really, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because it does feel like what we, in marketing world, we always call compelling events. It's like, this is an event that other people are seeking out a solution suddenly, and so you should be there ready.
So yeah, our marketing things we're going to try and work on is that, and actually making video content, and not just instructional videos, but like just making a compelling set of content for people just to discover us through. Again, you'd think photography video company would do that, but I don't know.
So you said you'd make lots of features, and you felt like you were kind of throwing those on the wall. But the other side of the coin was adding new cameras. And my guess, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that each camera, and especially each manufacturer that you added, was a sudden, like, you could probably see that change the metrics, because that opens up the sort of the TAM for your business now?
Manufacturers in particular, yeah, because we tend to release, like our big releases are a new manufacturer, because they tend to, but not always, have like a common stack for all their cameras. So, Canon was first, then we added Nikon, and that was just like, we now support every Nikon camera in the past 10 years or something. Off you go. And that brings in a swath of new users. We haven't done that in a while, and all the camera manufacturers that are left are small manufacturers. So I don't know if our next one to do is Leica, for instance.
That was the one my brain went to. I didn't know if she supported them or not, but they feel like while they're small, it's also an audience that is, well, one, willing to spend money, and two, it does feel like weirdly Leica is a little bit more prosumer.
Yes, so people buy Leicas are people who really care about photography. So I think that will be a good one to add, but I'm not sure.
But it also feels like a tinkery crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's probably lots of, professional photographers, obviously, that shoot with Leica, obviously. But like, it almost feels like there is this subgenre of just, if you have a Leica camera, you're the type of person who has lots of gear and plays with lots of things and tries lots of things. But it is obviously smaller than, Nikon or Canon or something.
Exactly, yeah. And they're very expensive, and we have to buy the cameras to do it.
Yeah, I want to touch on that, because it was funny whenever I was talking to you in Chicago a couple weeks ago. I think I made some joke about like, man, it must be nice to have to use your business expense for buying all these cameras. And you sort of lamented it, because yes, you have to buy lots of camera bodies, but that also means you don't have a lot of cameras you can actually really functionally use for the business.
Yes. Yeah, there's two reasons why it's kind of sad. So the first one is, like, if you want to start an indie app business, choosing a thing where you need to buy lots of very expensive hardware to get going is a really bad idea, just kind of objectively, like, because, And secondly, like, if you care about photography, we have cameras that people would like, I know people that would love to own this. Like, it's a really high-end, very, very good camera. And it sits in our cupboard with a really crappy lens on it, because it's just used for testing and validation. And like, it's kind of sad from that point of view. Like, occasionally I'll like take it out and like, let it see outside at least, But yeah.
You just have a spot on your desk for, today's your day.
Today's your day, yeah. I think my funniest one is like that Phase 1 camera that they sent us, that medium format camera. That thing is worth more than my car. It's just a stupid, bonkers kind of system, this thing. And it's 150 megapixels. And I used it to take my passport photo. So in my passport is a really, really grainy, step down image that was originally from a very, very, very high-end 150 megapixel camera. And that makes, I don't know, it makes me smile. The person at immigration at, at the border doesn't care. But like,
maybe they do. You never know.
Maybe.
They're like, man, the warmth. Medium format would be, that is like, I would love to play with that. I don't have the, budgetary means to have one as a toy, obviously.
I did say to the folks at Phase One, it's like, right, so this camera, because they lent it us, it's not mine, it's not ours. So this is your camera. Like, we want to go out and record some, marketing shots for our release with you. What's your do we insurance? Like what? And they were like, no, we don't care. Take it out. If you smash it, you smash it. Like, it's fine. Like, we want you to use the camera. So they're very, very like, cool about it. So maybe I should bring it to a conference one day, just so the people that are interested can could try it.
That would be a fun, almost marketing kind of thing, right? Like,
yeah.
You're shooting shots, like medium format shots. When I think of medium format, I know there's Hasselblad and all these, like, people use them for street photography and stuff. But in my head, my only real experience with people I know is people who use them for commercial photography, where it's like in a studio and honestly, like, shooting a passport is almost more what I think of. Is it that kind where it's like, it's big, it's meant to be mounted on something, or is this a take it out and shoot landscapes or something with it?
I believe the three main use cases for these things are landscape photography, because it stays still. You can take very high resolution, very beautiful landscapes. Studio photography, like high-end fashion magazines and things, they tend to use those big cameras. And also a big market for them is aerial photography. So, like the satellite view on a Google Maps or Apple Maps.
So again, mounted to something.
Isn't always satellite. It's quite often an array of these things, or things like it bolted to a plane, and they use it to very high megapixels. All that is good.
But the studio version of this, extremely, like, there's not a person standing behind it hitting the shutter, right? It's almost always probably there's monitors set up, and
there are multiple movies have parodied this, but the one that comes to mind is Austin Powers, where there's like a fashion shoot happening, and there's a very, very sort of flamboyant character with a camera, like, saying all sorts of stupid stuff, and not, that isn't that far from the truth in some situations. Like, I've seen actual photo shoots like that. They do tend to be connected to a monitor as well, so like clients and people can just see what's being taken.
And is that where Cascable comes in?
Yeah. So like Cascable can be that for any camera if you wanted to. Like, you can connect it from your phone or iPad or whatever to a screen. There's a special like full screen external display mode where it can be that as well.
So actually, that makes me think. I had an episode, actually it just came out a couple days ago as we record, with Joe from Teleprompter Pro, and he's talked about how that's similar, where they're working a lot with these sort of broadcast industry type users, and he's talked about like going into the field and like shooting, or at least watching people do that, and that kind of coming into features and things that they add to the app. Have you spent time in studios seeing how people are using this, and has that informed stuff you've done in the app?
A little bit, yeah. I'd like to do it more, actually. I just need to figure out a way to reach out to the right people. But yeah, we've done it a few times with, especially like, we've worked with lighting manufacturers, like studio lighting, and that has allowed us to go into like, actual studios to see both the app and lighting being used, which is very interesting.
Does the app do stuff with lighting as well?
No, it doesn't. I'd like it to. It's a time thing again, because I need to reverse engineer a bunch more things and figure out how it works. Yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely think there's a cool thing of being able to script and automate lighting alongside your camera in the same app. I think that'd be pretty cool.
We've been talking this whole time about, we call it Cascable, but the app at this current time is called Cascable Studio. And if you go to your website, you'll see there's actually, a number of different apps. So yeah, what's the story there? Why have you sort of split out into different apps versus just shoving a bunch of different features into the one mega app?
So Cascable Studio is already too big. Look, it's, it's got a geotagging thing in it, for instance, for, applying location to photos. And like barely anybody uses it.
They probably don't know it's there, and you can't market that as its own unique feature.
I want to do a really good geotagging app because there isn't one. That's not fair. There are lots of geotagging apps. I want to do my geotagging app. There we go. That's a separate app. So I'm kind of now in the position where I'm like almost wanting to pull features from the app, and I'm kind of scared to do so because it's going to like really upset a very small number of people. Maybe we can give them a free copy of like the new geotagging app once that comes out, but I don't know. So it's kind of like Cascable is a fully Cascable Studio. Cascable Studio is a fully featured app. Like it's a decade old at this point. 11. Well, it's been shipping 11 years actually, so it's well over a decade old. Like the feature set it has is an app. Like it's a full app, and we add features, more advanced, and we refine the features that are there. But like a whole new like category almost.
And is it still one-time purchase?
Yes, if you want it to be. So we have subscription and one time.
Okay. Yeah.
The non-subscription purchase is now $100, or $99, which is expensive.
Well, but reflecting the fact that it's a professional piece of
exactly.
software.
Like I don't think it's an unfair price at all.
Yeah.
It's very rare we get complaints about the price, actually. So maybe it's not expensive enough. I don't know. But we did add subscriptions a few years ago, it was as a way to get in at a lower cost, or try the app out for a month for a lower cost. And soon after, Adobe went subscription only for their photography tools, and that pissed off basically the entire photography industry, like in one day. So I didn't want to go subscription only, because our market is already very upset about subscriptions, basically. So it's the user can choose. Right, the paywall comes up and there's the non-subscription and the subscription. And I very specifically don't use the word lifetime, because we do have started charging for updates, like in the traditional-ish, like major update.
Like you gate new features.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
After a certain amount of time. It's not like an automated, like if you have it for X years, it doesn't get it. Like we make the decision, okay, well, this feels like a big update and these features are big new features.
Is the product that they're purchasing, instead of lifetime, do you call it like Cascable Studio 3.0 or whatever? Like, how do you message the fact that you're not buying everything forever, but you're buying this current set of features?
So this is interesting. So we never use the word lifetime anywhere. We call it the non-subscription option. And there's an article on the website, a help article, that's like, why is it not called lifetime? And we explicitly say, because it's not like, it starts with, this question gets very difficult when you ask whose lifetime. Like, is it mine? Is it yours? Is
but all that makes sense. But most people on
yeah.
mobile aren't going to probably open the website. Right.
No, exactly. So we do, I need to put that in the app actually. But we'll occasionally have somebody email in saying, hey, I see there's a subscription and a lifetime option, and ask the question. And then I'll answer the question and also say, you said lifetime, it's not lifetime. Look at this article. That's how we.
But it hasn't been the source of a lot of pain or strife or anything.
No, we occasionally get a question, hey, it's not, why isn't it lifetime? Like, I want it lifetime. And when I send them an article, the answer is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Because we have enough history of like not screwing people over that we can, look, you can see people who bought the app when it first came out in 2015 were first asked for an upgrade in like 2022 or something.
Yeah.
Like, you get many years, we make the promise that it's always the cheapest. So if you buy the non-subscription and then you do the upgrades over time, that will always be cheaper than subscribing over the same kind of time period. And that kind of like makes people like, okay.
It is subscription and lifetime, but there is a free mode as well, right?
So the free mode right now is effectively equivalent to what you get for free with your camera if you download the manufacturer's own app.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you can use our app instead, but it doesn't do anything more. To get more, you pay. Like our ratio of paid to non-paid is about 25% paid, which I think is pretty high in general. We've considered just getting rid of the free tier entirely and just making it a trial. I don't know if that would actually convert anybody in the free tier though.
I mean, my guess, not knowing literally anything about your market really, would be it would, and you would probably see higher conversions. But there is this sort of, especially given how you've described where you think your growth is coming from, your free tier is probably providing a significant amount of the word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's all me guessing. Like every industry is a little different, but especially since you have essentially zero per user costs, right? It's not like you're using AI tokens for something or whatever. Your free users aren't really a drag at all. So like you would be trading potentially word of mouth marketing, which in a studio setting maybe is bigger than a lot of other apps, non-social apps. I mean, you'd be trading that for a higher conversion, most likely. I mean, we've seen, we wrote about this in our like state of subscriptions report thing this year, but like a lot of people jumped on it this year as a story of like, I should know the number off the top of my head, but switching to a hard paywall can make like your chart look silly almost in terms of your conversions go up, which makes sense. But like long term, you know, a lot of people will subscribe for a week and instantly cancel, so they use it or whatever. So I don't know. It doesn't. It's a trade off, I guess.
Yeah, like I personally, like I am an indie developer, and you know, not one that's had like an overnight success or anything. You know, I'm extremely understanding and empathetic to the, you know, the life of the indie developer. And even then, if I open an app and it forces me to do like a subscription with a free trial, like I'm out. Like I won't complete the onboarding. Like it just like, nah.
Well, it depends, I guess. If it's funny enough, you know. If there's a meme happening, I'll do that. All right. You know, I need to generate the whatever. What do I look like as an old man?
You know, I understand that weather apps, there's an ongoing cost there, so sure. But like, you know, in general, it's not, I don't really like it. So yeah, we've wondered about putting ads in, but then ads are often horrid.
Yeah, and again, because it's like it's a professional app, right? It can degrade that.
Yeah, exactly. One thing we've thought is, were you aware of how Twitterific did apps? So the Icon Factory is Twitter.
How they did, like, I remember how they did upgrades. Oh, yeah, where they had
their own private ad network basically, yes. And you could spend, I think it was $100 a week, month, I know, something, to be in the app. And then they did it. There was none of the horrid tracking and stuff that the larger advertising network has.
There's actually a fellow, again, at Deep Dish person.
Yes, Tyler, right?
Yes. He started, is it guildads.com? I think that's the,
exactly.
the website. So but it's essentially taking Marco Arment's method that he uses for Overcast, which is also similar, and making it like cross indie apps.
Yeah, exactly. So for a little while, I've been idly thinking about doing a similar thing to Twitterific, but like trying to sell spots to photography like things. So you can advertise your tripod in there or your camera or whatever. And so that at least relevant to the people using the app. I don't really want to become an ad network though. So like when Tyler started talking about his thing, I was like, oh, so I actually have quite I have a to-do this week to contact him and actually try it.
I just want to make sure I got that right. Yeah, it's Guild Ads, which makes me laugh because it looks like Guild Dads. Which makes me laugh because I'm in a group chat with him that was, it started as like Missouri Dads because he's also from Missouri.
Oh, really?
And so I can't not see that every time. But yeah, guildads.com is what it is. I'm very curious to see how that works out because it's basically
me too. And
try ads but not as gross.
Yeah, exactly. So like if we do ads, it will be with that or something like it very soon, I think. So just as an experiment to see if it. Because, you know, he himself said like one of the reasons to have it is to push people to get rid of them almost. Like, because you can have like a...
Well, Brian Mueller, who does Carrot Weather, I don't know if you've seen his ads that he has, but I
haven't, no.
It's amazing. And selfishly, it's very beneficial to me. He basically added them into his free tier as a way to like, basically as a perk for upgrading, but they're all fake ads. That he made.
Oh, interesting.
But most of them are random indie apps. So like there is a dark noise ad in there that he made. I forgot how it's phrased, but it's something in his Carrot Weather voice. So it's like, you know, make all the stupid sound stop. Or it's funnier than that because he's a lot funnier than me. But it's like all these sort of goofy ads that a lot of them are just made up or they're random other indie apps. And he literally has it in there just as another reason to kind of upgrade is to just get rid of that banner that takes up some space.
Yeah, I do think we'll do that next because I don't think really getting rid of the free tier is going to be that beneficial. Because like our free, we don't get a ton of support load from free users. Like, you know, it's not like you say, the app isn't costing us any money to run. other than fixed-ish costs for this and that, So it's not like, say hypothetically we just dump that 75%, so we only have paid the paid users we have, we wouldn't see any increased revenue from that or reduced costs. So I think we'll leave it and just try other ways to get people to upgrade.
So we mentioned earlier, like this, spinning off other apps, and you mentioned an app that you're wanting to build for GPS tagging, but you have a number of other apps. There's like Photo Scout, you have a webcam app.
We have Cascable Studio, which is the app we've been talking about now. We have an app called Cascable Pro Webcam, which was our COVID panic pivot that actually saved the company.
Whoa. Oh, well, we have to dive into that.
Yeah. So thankfully, as an accidental, excellent business decision many years ago, I pulled out the camera connection logic and stuff into its own framework. That is another revenue stream for the company. Like, we license that out. So
really?
Oh,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we have an SDK product that, it's the same API no matter the camera. So you import this thing and you can just connect to every camera that Cascable Studio supports. It's like 250
Interesting.
cameras now.
Okay.
And then you can just build your app and build the app and not have to care that, like, oh, Sony in this firmware update changed this and blah, 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 blah. Like, we deal with it. You have a very consistent API. Like, that's the sales pitch before it. So when coronavirus happened, people stopped going outside. So all of the events got cancelled. So all of the event photographers lost their jobs. So all of the event photographers stopped buying photography apps, basically.
Right.
And we were kind of down the chain from that. And we were like, okay. So, and what started happening was people were trying to use their real cameras that they had as webcams, because everybody went remote work, right?
Well, and like reporters and all these people, everybody was trying to figure it out.
And there were shortages of actual normal webcams. You couldn't buy them. So I was like, oh, well, we've got this SDK. We saw our sales just kind of go, boo. So we went, oh, we could use the SDK to make a virtual webcam on the Mac. So you can connect your camera and then it's a webcam. So from like idea to money was 3 weeks, and I'm very proud of that.
And to money means a consumer app that you built.
Yeah, selling copies to consumers. So had the SDK, it's a very simple Mac app. The main complexity was working out like the virtual webcam kind of architecture of macOS. But we could just like ship that real quick, and then that saved the day, basically. That filled in the revenue hole.
And so, it really did, like, it leveled off your, aggregate revenue. Has that continued to be kind of an important piece, or when the world kind of went back to more normal, did that slowly level off to a smaller amount? And Cascable obviously picked back up.
That has died off fairly significantly. The camera manufacturers also kind of eventually cottoned on, and now often if you buy a new camera, it has a webcam mode in it. So what we need to do now, I think the future for that app is actually making it pro. So like you can support multiple cameras connected and like, other features like that. So you
learn what the more advanced users are trying to.
Yeah, exactly. And make it an advanced product. It still sells okay, but it's on the maintenance schedule right now. And so like I do believe in having multiple revenue streams, like,
Yeah, and in those cases too, like those are, while they feel similar, it's actually, like you just said, it's very different audiences actually.
Yes, like it uses a camera, and that's the common thing. Yeah.
Market changes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then your other app or the other big one that I know about is Photo Scout. What's the story there?
It was an idea for a feature for Cascable Studio from years and years ago. Thankfully, I didn't try to put in the app because it was already full. And the tagline for it is, you say where, we say when. So the idea is like, man, I need to work on the elevator pitch for that. Like, you want to take a school photo, you're at the beach, you want a really beautiful sunset, say. You can say, okay, well, I want to be here. I want the sunset to be like particularly vibrant. I want there to be not a lot of cloud cover so you can actually see it. I don't want it to be too windy because I want my hair to look good. Add it in, you put the app away, and you'll get a push notification that says, okay, if you go back there at this time, you'll get the photo you want. And we have like, modules for the Northern Lights, and we have if the Northern Lights are happening and the sky's clear so you can actually see it, you'll get notified.
So it's looking at, what is that, KPI? Is that what that's called for the Northern Lights?
Yes, yeah. So we're kind of hooked into the NORA, is it, the American Weather Association thing forecast for that. We do position of the sun and the moon and things in the sky. So if you want a comedy photo of a statue pointing at the sun or whatever, you can do that. Like, so it has
I imagine,
all of this
is this
stuff.
one that you also see spikes during like
Yeah,
solar
yeah,
events?
exactly.
Yeah.
Funny about the statue thing, because we were trying to like pitch it to, for marketing and to like Apple folks to get, featured and all that kind of stuff. So I went around Stockholm and like did the example of like having a statue pointing at the sun, right? So in the screenshot would be, the statue with the box in the sky saying, all right, I want the sun to be here, please. So I did all that and I got back and I was looking through the photos and I realized, thankfully in time, that a lot of the statues in Stockholm are of guys with no clothing on. And I couldn't really send them to Apple.
Yeah, it is kind of in that weird, it's art, generally speaking. Obviously, it's in a public setting, but with Apple, you feel like you want to be extra, extra, extra careful with everything. Yeah,
exactly. So then we went on vacation. We connected through Paris, and we had a day in Paris. It was the Eiffel Tower. So our examples are now like, the sun sitting on top of the Eiffel Tower,
which is probably a more common,
or the sun setting through the Arc de Triomphe. So the sun is in the arch.
Yeah,
the king.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
And we got those photos as well. So we've actually got real examples of the app in use. So that's our other app, and that's that's not Cascable Studio is our breadwinner, and I think our main problem with Photo Scout is that it's very easy to show. Like if you show it to someone, like, oh, that's really cool, I get it. But like describing it in an advert is really difficult, and we haven't cracked it yet. So one of our tasks this year, is to figure that out and get it marketed properly. Because I think it's a great app. I love it. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, well, and I mean it's a thing I do frequently. I've used some different like ones that are just focused on sun before. But I knew the name of it and I had never tried it until, we started talking, or maybe you mentioned it during the podcast you did before. But it is now on my phone as a because I do all these weird little videos all the time. And like, do I want this during golden hour, or sometimes I want it to be raining because it's funnier or whatever. And so understanding those weird combinations of things is actually a kind of somewhat frequent thing.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add, it's on our list, is to do it has been raining, but it is no longer raining.
Yeah.
So like a city is beautiful in that if it's dark and it's wet, but it isn't raining, the reflections everywhere, like you can get some really cool shots there. So like that's something to add in, stuff like that. It's just figuring out how to market it because it's tricky.
Awesome. Well, we are at the end here, but I can't let you go without asking the question I ask everyone to end the show, which is what's a person or people out there that inspire you in your work that you'd recommend others check out?
I'm actually going to give two then. If one's developing related and one isn't, if that's okay.
Fine, I guess.
Fine. Okay. So
I
the
run
first
a really
one,
tight ship here normally.
Yeah. First one is my father. He's passed away. He's also not a developer, but he did, as I said earlier, run his own business doing journalism. Growing up with that kind of just put into me that, well, that's just a perfectly normal thing to do, is to have your own business. And that is why, it's not why I'm an indie developer, but it's why I considered that I could be. Because it's like completely normal. It's like, well, yeah, I'll just do my own business like Dad did, whatever. So that's just kind of ingrained into me that it's completely possible for, anybody to do.
It's so much less scary when it's a thing you see.
It is hard work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's just what Dad did, right? So that's one. And the other one, developer-wise, is Will Shipley.
Okay.
So he now works for Apple. The big thing he was famous for is an app called Delicious Library. That was a Mac app that came out in mid-2000s, I want to say. It was a Mac OS 10 app, but it was fairly early in Mac OS 10. And it was basically a library for managing, well, it's an app for managing your media library, like your DVDs and your Blu-rays and your books and stuff. So, it had like a barcode scanner, so you could scan your thing and it would look up all the metadata for the thing you scanned and it'd put it on the shelf and you could, it was very beautiful. It's very, 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 very skeuomorphic. Like it was that era of apps.
The delicious era.
The delicious era. It started the delicious era, like of apps that were like that, like very, very beautiful, very, very, very polished. Ton of work going into that. So that always inspired me a lot. Just the what he was putting out. It was like, what you could do on the Mac. But also, like, I never saw him I don't think I've ever met him, but I've never seen him speak in person, but I've seen him, like recordings of talks he's given here and there. And it's clear he's a very smart developer and also a very smart business person. And that inspired me. And there was one talk I heard, I think it's just an audio recording of him give. He was talking about how he did coupon codes for something. I can't remember the context of it, but he had a coupon code that gave somebody a discount. And somebody put their hand up and asked, like, yeah, but your app is $50. What happens if somebody shares the code and then they get your app for $20? And his answer was like, well, I take that $20.
Yes.
And
oh, man. I think about this a lot.
I love that answer. And I think about it, like, still when I'm thinking about stuff like that. It's like, well, if we're doing a promo and somebody gets it that they shouldn't, it's like, well, we'll just take their money. It's fine. Like, and that just kind of, that his whole attitude in running the business, and he was somebody I kind of aspired to be, if you like. The products he put out and just the way he ran the business as well. Panic, Cable Sasa and that lot at Panic is also kind of in that thing. Like independent Mac shop that, they're a lot bigger than I think I aspire to be now, but that's still like, I use their apps back in macOS 8 and 9, like their MP3 player and their file transfer thing. And I don't know, they've always been another sort of indie company that I've kind of aspired to be. So try and get the Panic folks on.
They're in that category that from day one, they have been on my list. And I've had some many heroes of mine on the show, but I still have never been brave enough to reach out. I've met Cable like once or twice at an event, but in one of those like, I love your work, and then he moves on to the next handshake kind of thing. So like, but yes, I definitely should one of these days.
Photoscat has a theme song because of Panic. Like it has music in the onboarding. If you open Photoscout and you unmute your phone and you sit on the onboarding so nobody will see it, hear it, there's a song that plays. And if you stay on the onboarding, the song has like weather elements in the sound, and the weather on the onboarding in the graphics will change based on the music.
That's fantastic.
So like the storm comes in and
breaking news here. Everybody go download it and find it.
Yeah. I loved it. And I did that because Panic had an app on the iPad. I think it's called Status Board.
Yes. Yeah.
And their onboarding had like some elevator music like playing in the background when you went through the onboarding. And I really liked that. So I kind of copied that idea.
Good. Oh, fantastic. Those are very, very good. All right. So where can people find you on the internet if they can, and Cascable?
Yeah. So Cascable is at cascable.se. So CASCABLE.se. That's where all my apps are. I'm iKendac on everywhere. So IKENNDAC. So I'm on Mastodon. I'm on Blue Sky sometimes. My website is ikend.ac. Again, in the history of having names and things that people can't pronounce or remember, I make it really hard to find me. Honestly, if you search my name on Google and stuff, it'll come up. So I have a blog there where I write very long blog posts very occasionally. iKendac everywhere, basically.
Perfect. And of course, we'll have links in the show notes for that. All right. Well, thank you again for coming, and thank you all for listening this far. Launched is a part of the Revenue Cat podcast family now. If you're interested in learning more about the growth side of the mobile app business, you should check out Subclub, which is run by my, much more professional and adult colleague, David Barnard. And then, of course, you can check out RevenueCat.com to learn about the easiest way to grow and monetize your mobile app business. And for everything launched, go to launchedfm.com, which is also pretty much our handle everywhere on the internet. And if you don't already, you should check out our YouTube channel, because this is a video podcast now. And we put a lot of work into, our faces for this. So yeah, you should check that out. It's a lot of fun. And I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Bye.